Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's CRM Magazine web event brought to you by Bigtincan, Conversica, and Aviso. My name is Bob Fernikes, and I'm the publisher of CRM Magazine, and I'll be the moderator for today's broadcast. Today we'll be talking about AI-powered sales teams. But before we start, I just want to explain how you can be part of this live broadcast. At the end of the event, we'll have a Q&A session, so if you have a question during the presentation, just type it into the box and click on the submit button. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible, but if for some reason we can't get to yours, we'll follow up within a few days by email. Plus, if you'd like a copy of these presentations, you can download a PDF from the resource icon on the console once the event is archived. Now to introduce our speakers for today, we have David Keane. He's the CEO and co-founder of Bigtincan. We have Erwin Martin. He's Vice President of Sales at Conversica, and Michael Locke, CEO of Aviso. If you want to review the speakers' bios, just click on the arrows under their photos. So now I'm going to pass the event over again to David Keane. He's, again, the CEO and co-founder of Bigtincan. Welcome to the broadcast, David.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks, everyone, for joining today's event. This is probably one of the most exciting areas in sales technology at the moment, thinking about how the power of data science and AI technologies can actually impact the way salespeople work. But to start with, we want to go back and think about the digitization of our economy and how that's driven the need for this new smart way of thinking about helping salespeople. You know, if we start thinking about how that buyer journey process has changed for all businesses, you know, cloud, social, and mobile technologies have really transformed how people work, how they share and how they engage with each other. And if you look at some of the profound impacts that's had on our economy, you can see, starting with areas like learning and skills development. According to the Corporate Executive Board, 87% of training content is now forgotten within 30 days. So this new approach to digitization, cloud, and mobile is really changing how we think about working. And the impact on salespeople is pretty significant. According to CSO Insights, only 58% of sales reps are achieving their sales quota in this new world. Now, that change in our world has really led to modern buyers changing radically how we think about the buyer's journey. And if we traditionally measured that buyer journey, starting with stages like awareness, interests, leading to desire and action, and it was a standard flow that people would go through. And sellers were able to influence the buyer along that journey by providing them information, materials, guidance, really engaging them along the sales process. When we think about how that's changed today, as buyers move from awareness to consideration, instead of moving to an active stage of engagement then through the purchase, what they're often doing is building this loop. They're using research and discovery to build back and forward their own loop of understanding of the products and services that they want to work with. And when they do get to engage with salespeople or sellers, the time in which that seller has to influence the buyer's decision is significantly compressed. Now, that's happening at the same time that sellers are being stuck with all kinds of interesting challenges. When they think about trying to find content to send to prospects, as much as 65% of sales reps are finding it difficult to find the right materials to help them to influence that buyer journey. But at the same time, they're spending 13 hours each week looking for and creating marketing collateral. That's according to the Industry Intelligence Report. And these are real challenges that are distracting away sellers when they're particularly time poor and trying to be able to engage with their buyers. So the result of all that is we need a new generation of smarter sales tools that are designed to give customer-facing teams the ability to be able to win more deals by being better prepared, better informed, ready to engage that buyer when they have that unique opportunity to do so, but also helping them to be more productive, finding ways to give them back some of their time that is lost to non-selling activities. So digitization is a challenge for many organizations. We think about how our buyers are thinking in the journeys that they go through, but it also can be a really significant impact in assisting us to think in new ways and developing how our businesses work. And so we thought for today's event, we wanted to focus on a couple of key things. We think about how AI works and what will AI change and how sales teams operate. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see a section talking about what we expect to change with the power of AI. And, it starts right at the beginning. Customers will get a more value in a shorter period of time from their salesperson. And that's because each salesperson will be able to use the power of AI technologies to help them to be better prepared, have the right skills and knowledge to be able to educate that customer and provide them real value. And also that salesperson will get back some of that time lost to non-selling activities due to the power of AI technologies to impact their daily work schedule. Now, at the same time, that will lead to sales reps becoming more consultative. They will get guidance from AI tools that help them to understand how best to solve customers' real-world problems. And they'll get direct feedback from AI about the process that they're going through and the impact that their work with a customer is likely to have on that sales situation. We talked about it before, but AI has a significant opportunity in all of our teams to help deliver back some of that time lost to non-selling activities. The latest numbers I saw from CSO Insights said 37% is the amount of a salesperson's time that they spend on direct selling activities. And that means that 63% of their time is spent on those non-selling tasks. And we break that down into the skills and knowledge development they need to help them be successful and the productivity tasks they have to do, looking for and creating their collateral, finding the right pieces to be able to share with customers, engaging with their peers inside the organization to understand what is successful behavior. Well, AI technologies can really start to help us to move the needle on giving back that time to salespeople, which results in giving them the opportunity to spend more of their time on the things that they do really well, which is building the relationships with their customers that lead to sales success. But another thing about what AI will do for our businesses is not just about what it'll do for the individual salesperson, but marketing and sales management, using the power of AI, will start to get insights at the back end to identify trends. This is where the software, being able to look at everything that's happening in the buyer journey and the way the teams engage with customers as they think about how they want to take advantage of a product in a marketplace, will be able to be processed and used to create deep understanding and identify opportunities where management can start to get involved and make changes in the way they run their sales process. And this is pretty unique because these are the kind of things that really could only be done at huge scale with massive investments, big teams of business analysts and specialists that would come and try and identify those trends. What AI is doing is it's really offering us an opportunity to consumerize some of those approaches that were really very challenging to put in place before. So it's as well as giving us that benefit for the salesperson, it's absolutely driving the impact that management will have and understanding the process that their sellers go through every day. But at the end of the day, we certainly see all this adding up to sales enablement being more crucial than ever. And that sales enablement process, starting with how do you, onboard, train, and coach your salespeople to be more effective? How do you help them to prepare to engage with that customer before a meeting? The actual process of engaging with a customer in a session, whether it be a face-to-face meeting or a remote meeting, that's an area where sales enablement and IT and AI is going to have a pretty big impact. And then the automation of those tasks, helping those sellers to be able to more consistently get more accurate data back into CRM and Salesforce automation products, is really going to drive the way that salesperson works and management understands what happens. And so we think sales enablement really is the fundamental building block that enables us to think about where AI will have an impact. Now, what's going to remain the same as today? We certainly believe, and we see it in discussing AI technologies with customers every day, is that at the end of the day, humans are the linchpin in building relationships and understanding and creating that person-to-person interaction that makes the difference in a selling situation. Building trust and building relationship will always be a core to how we sell and engage with customers. And so think about AI technologies as ways to be able to help those humans to be able to focus their time and energy on building those irreplaceable relationships and understanding customer challenges in ways that simply are impossible for AIs to be able to do, but become a natural skill of humans. We also will expect that customers will always really regard the outstanding engagements as being important, and they'll also remember awful engagements. This is this world whereby customers are going to understand that even if you implement an AI technology that you believe is going to help you save time and maybe empower your salespeople to do more, it's important to think about the customer and make sure the technologies really work for how that customer thinks. So one of the ways we try to kind of turn this into an example that we can all think about is to draw an analogy between what AI technology will do for sellers and what's happened in our automotive industry. And all of us read about things like these self-driving cars. And, if you now look at the marketplace, many people are able to go and purchase even a reasonably entry-level vehicle and get access to some self-driving technology. So we can create a self-driving car. Well, is AI ready to create a self-driving salesperson? And one of the things we like to think about when we talk through this analogy is, a self-driving car really is all about taking that sensor input data and helping that car to make important decisions. Does it stay in the lane? What speed does it go at? Does it take a particular exit? These are skills and approaches, taking that information about what is happening in that car's world and helping a decision be made. Now, we see a very similar opportunity to help salespeople, thinking about the information that is available to that salesperson, processing that information, and helping that salesperson to be able to make the right decision about how to help a customer, how to recommend a product, what to share with that customer to move forward a selling situation, really providing that extra inputs of data to help them to understand what's happening. Self-driving cars are also pretty good at helping to avoid issues. They can adjust, they can change speeds, they can really adapt as they think about their changing world. In the same way, AI technologies can help a salesperson to react to changes in their selling situation. If a customer moves down a particular product line, the AI technology can guide that salesperson down the path of understanding what they need to know to help that buyer be more likely to choose their product, and also be able to help that seller avoid the challenging issues, stopping them from sharing the internal price sheet with their customer at the wrong time, helping them to be aware of exposing competitive issues that may come up in a selling process. This is where AI can really impact how a seller works and help them to think about their world. And the other thing a self-driving car can do is they can reroute. I mean, this is really interesting. If you think about the power of our GPS technologies today, being able to change direction quickly with the help of a system that understands the world around it. We see AI for sales having a very similar impact, being able to help sellers to understand how to change the situation, how to adapt and adjust their selling motion based on the engagement that they're having with a customer to help them be more successful. But at the end of the day, as we spoke about before, it's all about helping that salesperson to be more successful. And just like a self-driving car, the idea is not that you can just put your hands off the wheel and leave it all up to the car. The car is going to guide you and provide help and assist you as you make that journey down the road. But it's really important to keep your hands on the wheel. And the same thing with AI for sales. We believe that the salesperson should always be in control. But you can think of this new approach to smarter selling tools about thinking in this new way, using these data science, machine learning, and AI technologies to really help salespeople be able to understand what they could do, let them guide a situation, and be more successful as they do that. So at Bigtincan, our goal is really to provide the software that underpins that new world. We build technology that helps sales and service professionals in enterprise organizations to really solve what we call the two sides of the coin. Help them to win more deals by automatically delivering the right information and content that they need to help them to be more successful in that moment when they're engaging with a customer. But also helping them to get more productive, be able to do more, using the power of AI to freeing up time and provide automatic connections to external systems like CRM and Salesforce automation so that sales reps get back more time to be more successful in how they work. So thank you so much for having a chance to talk about what Bigtincan sees as being an exciting world with the impact of AI technologies. You can find out more about our approach to AI at our website at worldwideweb.bigtincan.com. And Bob, back over to you.
Hey, great. Thanks so much, David. Really loved the analogy of the self-driving car. Now we're going to pass things over to Erwin Martin. Again, he's Vice President of Sales at Conversica. Welcome to the broadcast, Erwin.
Bob, thank you very much, and thanks everybody else out there listening to us on the webinar. And that's a great sort of lead in to using the self-driving car. Let's talk about how we can use artificial intelligence to empower your sales team and primarily to make a very successful salesperson for your sales team. There's really 4 keys to being a successful salesperson. The first key is knowing the buyer, knowing the employment history behind that buyer, the education, their cultural background, even what's their emotional and inspirational goals. What makes that buyer tick? Great salespeople tend to know the buyer. They also know how to talk to the buyer, communicate in their language, whether it be corporate language. I used to work for a lot of organizations that had lots of acronyms to talk about lots of different things. Cultural considerations in talking to your buyer. Believe it or not, how you talk to an American or how you talk to someone of European descent in a selling situation is completely different. And then, of course, their personality. Are they a driving decision maker? Are they someone who's the life of the party? Are they calm and collective? How their personality is going to be how you need to talk to them for them to make a buying decision. The third piece of the puzzle is knowing how to connect to the buyer. Buyers today are, they're really driving the process, as was stated earlier. So engaging them in a prompt, persistent, and polite fashion is really key to make sure that you're keeping that buyer engaged with you, the product, and the service. And great salespeople know how to do that. And lastly, great salespeople know how to self-diagnose to improve their own performance. They trust but verify their own work. They don't believe in their own stories. They make sure that they've got all those potholes covered and minefields laid out that they could possibly run into in a sales cycle. And more importantly, they're constantly seeking coaching and feedback. So let's talk about how artificial intelligence can help you know your buyer. Well, success starts with what we call a pre-call plan. Every great seller knows that they have to have the intelligence on that buyer and able to engage that buyer in a very strong fashion and speak the buyer's language. They never go to a sales meeting unprepared. They seek to know the buyer before engaging that buyer. They develop what we call power questions, or I like to call it emphatic curiosity, from the research they've done to get that buyer to engage on an emotional level. They identify, as I said earlier, those minefields and traps ahead of time. Is there going to be a legal component? Will there be a security review? Is there a competitor into the mix that you may or may not be aware of? And they understand the underlying forces working for and against the deal. That could be market forces. That could be situations such as population flight if you work in real estate, an area you're trying to sell into, and those type of things. And then, more importantly, the seller knows that preparedness helps secure more wins and more losses. And the great thing is, in the old days, you had to do that all by yourself. You had to do the research, maybe go to networking groups, really sort of, get the shoe on the street to really, find out what's going on. And nowadays, there's solutions out there, AI solutions that help you, such as Detective IO, which does a lot of the pre-call research and pulls up a lot of the information for you. Nudge.ai, I'm missing a G in that one, I apologize. Affinity.io, and even Salesforce Einstein can help surface up what information about the buyer and when to engage with that buyer. Now, the second piece of the puzzle is that a great salesperson knows how to speak to the buyer. And we talked about first the personality. Whether you believe in Myers-Briggs or DISC, it's actually as important in the purchasing decision that the buyer will have. And a great salesperson wants to know that information so they can speak the language of that personality. They also understand that the personality style will help how they'll be heard by the buyer. If I'm a very direct person and you're using way too many words, you're going to lose that direct person right away. The ability to form that disposition towards their actions. If someone is calm and collective and very quiet, they're going to take their time in making that buying decision. And what's interesting is that personality does not always match their role or their title. A great salesperson knows that. And they also know when to name drop if it's important to that personality as well too. And there's some people who drop names like their manhole covers. The second piece is bridging the cultural difference. Believe it or not, how you say their name matters. I've got a very unique first name, and it is important if you know how to say my name correctly, you're going to grab my attention, and we can blame my parents for that. Also, how you speak to them across the different channels also matters as well, too. In the United States, over email and text, you can be very colloquial. You can't really necessarily do that if you're selling to Japan and other parts of Asia. In some on the phone, you have to be very formal. In some areas, not so formal. It's very, very important to understand how you bridge that cultural difference to make the sale. Because one mistake can prolong a sales cycle or even lose that sale. And lastly, understanding the corporate culture of that person. Are they in a large culture that uses acronyms? Like I said before, my old life, I used to do that all the time. Is there a multi-threaded approach to your sales process? Do you align executive to executive? Do you use your network to expand that sale? All those pieces are there. And there are AI solutions for that success. There's Crystal Knows. It's a great tool. It looks at that person's personality, their LinkedIn profile, their social profile, and tells you what type of personality they have using DISC. I use it personally myself. It's been very effective to help me write emails to get responses and engage in sales cycles. There's an AI tool called Name Coach. It helps organizations say the right name. Believe it or not, you lose more sales and more customer events if you get the person's name wrong. There's the Rosetta Stone, which actually does use AI to teach you not only language, but also the cultural differences that are out there. And again, there's also the tool called Nudge AI, which looks at your network across your network to see who else you can influence or help you influence that sale. So let's talk about how the AI helps you engage the buyer. Speed of contact is always key. The buyer now controls the process, and when they engage with your company or your brand, they want a response. They want to know that someone is there. And right now, by the time that buyer gets to you, they've already done either 50% or more of the research about your product, and they've already made up their mind, and now they just want to have affirmation of some of the thoughts they may have about your product, or even questions that they want to ask. Today, the buyer engages when they are ready, not when the salesperson is ready. And so the ability to engage with that buyer is very, very key. And a good seller today knows that. But also, keeping in touch is also very important. Buyers typically don't just engage on the first, second, third, or eighth attempts. They engage whenever they want to engage. And being persistent really matters. So we've got promptness, and we've got persistence. And consistency in how you communicate with the buyer lets the buyer know you actually care about their business. I was just actually coaching one of my reps, and we were talking about how, when you're in the sales cycle and it's getting close to that deal time, the salesperson and the buyer, they really kind of like each other a lot. And then the buyer says, you know what? We had to delay the decision for 2 months from now. And where does that salesperson go? They kind of just disappear. And the buyer's like, man, that kind of sucks. I thought we were friends. No, not really, because the salesperson doesn't really care about the buyer, and they want to know that you care. So how you do it matters as well, too. So you just can't do the Christmas tree approach. We've all been there as we've been sold to. You talk to the salesperson, they reach out to you, and then they send you back that email with every piece of collateral they can possibly find. They probably need a tool like Bigtincan to kind of help them find out what they need to use. But also, well, in that, they just want to sort of like do the shotgun approach to close the deal. And then there's that part where they're kind of tone deaf. They're not engaging the way the buyer wants to engage, and that also kills the deal. So politeness always wins in the end. And believe it or not, there are AI solutions out there that can lead to that success. Conversica, the product I represent, is one of them. Again, Nudge AI, Affinity, and even Crystal Knows. I just mentioned those without knowing about the personality. They will also help you with the timeliness, keeping in touch, and giving the buyer what matters in the way the buyer wants to buy. So the fourth key piece of great salespeople who leverage AI is knowing how to improve their own performance. That's the best part about salespeople. When I interview them, so one of the things I always ask is that they actually understand how they lost the deals that they lost and how they won the deals that they've won. Successful people, no matter what they do, whether it be sports, sales, engineering, they analyze constantly the wins and the losses. They look for patterns and try to repeat the successful ones. And if they find bad ones, they try to exercise them like the demons that they are. They analyze the game tape all the time. They're looking for ways to improve. They seek out mentors and coaches that will help them become better and make their goals. And they share their successes and failures on the sales floor with their family. Everywhere out there, they're constantly talking about what they did well, and more importantly, to help their teammates, what they kind of sucked at. Successful organizations, on the other hand, enable a culture of analysis that acts with speed. So we're not talking about analysis paralysis. We're talking about analysis that moves the deals forward. I used to be in the military, and after everything we did, we always did what's called an after-action review. We talked about the things that we did well. We talked about the things that we did bad, and we talked about what we can learn. That after-action review I've applied to my own sales team, which is important so they can learn how they won and lost the deals. And I encourage that self-diagnosis. I want my team to come to me not just with their successes and not just with the problems, but also talk amongst themselves about the failures, because it's through failure where we learn to get better. And more importantly, share across functions, not just in the sales organization, but with customer success, with marketing, with product, with finance, with engineering, all the things that work and all the things that don't work. And again, there are AI solutions that make that possible for you. So Conversica, our own solution, does it as well too. Chorus.ai, Gong.io, even Einstein within Salesforce. These are all solutions that help share our best practices. So now we're talking about that ideal salesperson, right? He knows how to find out about the buyer, how to do the background information. He knows how to talk to the buyer. She knows how to be there promptly with the buyer, persistently and politely, and she knows how to self-diagnose. Those salespeople today have tools at their disposal that use artificial intelligence to make their lives easier, so that when they are doing that 33% selling time, they're selling to maximum efficiency. And if you want to learn how Conversica helps with knowing your buyer, helps with you staying in front of your buyer, helps the salesperson improve their performance, and helps the salesperson engage in a polite, persistent manner, you can reach out to us at Conversica.com and request a demonstration, and we can show you how the power of natural language processing and natural language generation can work for you and for your sales team. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter, or heck, you know what? There's that thing out there called the telephone. Believe it or not, it's ancient technology and it still works. You can dial us at 1-888-778-1004. Hey, I may not be able to read the number, but it's on the screen for you to make that dial. All right, Bob, back to you.
Hey, great. Thanks so much, Erwin. So I just want to remind everybody, while we've got David, Erwin, and Michael on the line, please, if you have any questions, type them in. They're a wealth of knowledge in this brand new emerging technology. So type in your questions and hit submit. Now I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Michael Locke. He is the CEO of Aviso. Welcome to the broadcast, Michael.
Thanks, Bob. And thanks to Bigtincan and Conversica for kicking things off. When you go third, it's a little easier. And those two fine gentlemen talked about how AI can help in sales enablement, or how AI can help in sales conversations. I think those are very important areas. What I'm going to talk about is something that Aviso is well steeped in, and that's how we might use AI to actually close more deals. Aviso has been in the AI for sales business for about 4 years. We have about 40 customers using our AI-based technology. So the things I'm going to talk to you about today aren't theories, but things that we've learned from deploying AI at 40 leading technology companies. So before I talk about that, it is worth just revisiting how important AI is and how big a trend it is. And I've been in the IT business for, more years than I would like to admit, 30-plus years. AI is the biggest trend that we've ever seen. Every single major company is investing in it. And in our consumer lives, we're experiencing it every day, whether we're using Google, which is, frankly, the biggest AI algorithm in the world, whether whether Uber is using AI to route the right car to you at the right time, or whether Facebook is using AI to analyze pictures and tell you who your friends are, or Amazon most famously using it to actually recommend products to you. B2C organizations have really jumped first on the AI bandwagon, and it has created, obviously, immensely valuable companies. Now, B2B companies have been a little bit further behind that. And so you're starting to see, if you watch, this is a quote from, it was in Forbes, where it kind of talks about B2C companies going first, But right in the middle there, they'll say B2B companies need to pay attention or they risk their future success. There's never been a better time for B2B companies to adopt AI. You'll see a little of this. If you're watching TV, you're going to see a lot of Watson commercials from IBM where they're talking about, hey, how might we use AI to do preventive maintenance on elevators, or how should we do AI to prevent fraud detection. B2B is just starting, to use AI. B2C is further ahead. And then I would say further, even within B2B, we're not seeing enough adoption of AI within sales. And it's my personal mission and the mission of my company to make sure that sales doesn't get left behind, that we actually use a lot of AI in sales. And so you can use AI in a lot of areas. And we've already talked about two of them today. And I really enjoyed those presentations. But what I'm going to talk about is I think the three most central areas to apply AI are opportunity management, pipeline management, and forecasting. And, we started with AI quite some time ago. This is what our customers told us were the areas that they wanted to focus on most on. These are the three things that directly impact revenue that's there. And I've spent most of my time talking today about how you actually can use AI to close more deals, manage your opportunities better. I'm not saying you shouldn't use it in these other areas. I believe that AI should be used pervasively throughout sales, but amongst the first adopters of AI are actually using it to sell more. And that's, by and large, gets CROs and CEOs' attention. That's there. And if you don't actually believe that, this is a recent stat from one of our analysts and good partner, Serious Decisions, is that in B2B sales organizations today, 77% of all opportunities are lost, or better said, they're not won. That's there. They don't necessarily lose them to the competition. It's there. But that means 3/4 of the work you're doing in sales is wasted. That's there. And we're not talking about 3/4 of the leads. We're talking about 3/4 of the opportunities in your CRM system are never won. That means generally to open an opportunity, somebody's raised their hand and said, I'm interested in buying your product, and yet 3/4 of the time, we don't actually close those deals ever. And Serious Decisions went further on to say that's largely due to an over-reliance on just intuition, people just doing whatever they want to do. They're not sure which deals to pursue. They're not sure how to pursue them. Those of us who've been in sales for a long time, this stat resonates with us. It's there. So what I believe is that we need to use AI, big data, machine learning to actually solve this core problem. We can't waste 77% of our resources. When an opportunity gets open, we need to close it more often. So sales does need AI-powered opportunity management, and indeed, within our customer base, around 40 high-tech customers, they actually are closing 20% more deals than they did the year before with the use of AI technologies that are there. So that's a very powerful statement. And we actually see our customers using it in the following ways. And I'm going to just briefly and concretely talk about these things. One is in the upper left here. You can actually use AI, and you can use Avisos. There's a few other technologies out there where you actually, the computer and AI will actually calculate a opportunity score, or we call Aviso a win score. What is your probability to win that deal? We've been struggling with this forever in sales. If you ask based on intuition, somebody will say 30, 50, 80, 90. We don't know, that's there. But AI can actually calculate a statistical probability of that deal to close within the period that it's forecasting. The second graphic here is opportunity insights. AI can also look at all the data and not just provide a statistical probability, but can actually give you insights that human beings can't normally see. Because AI and big data can look at a lot more data. It can tell you, hey, geez, you don't close very many deals in this industry. And so if you're forecasting a deal in banking and you don't have many deals in banking, you ought to really rethink that. It can tell you, hey, this deal has been stuck in stage 3 for too long. Man, it might be stuck in stage 3 for 58 days, and the average deal that wins actually clears stage 3 in 25 days. There's a whole bunch of insights that big data can actually bring to the salesperson because the human mind just can't actually comprehend the amount of data. And oh, by the way, the AI can look at all the opportunities in the system. When a salesperson is looking about executing an opportunity, they're literally thinking about, here are the deals that I'm working on. They're only working on the data set that's in their 10 deals or in their head or in their 50 deals that they've ever prosecuted. Imagine giving sales reps and first-line sales management the power of insights of all the deals that have historically been in your company, forever. That's there. The third graphic here is we actually also do AI-based forecasting, and this is starting to get amongst the most play in the marketplace. If you can actually do win scores and provide insights, maybe you can get some assistance with AI to actually provide, the forecast that's there. So concretely, let me just talk about each one of these ideas so that you have some very good takeaways today. So we and others provide AI-based win scores, actual probability. So if you see on this slide, you see, hey, there's a 25, there's a 75, there's a 95. That's there. These are true statistical probabilities of a deal to close within the forecasted time frame. There, and it delivers this thing within the context of the opportunity and highlights to sales reps where they need to take action and when they need to take action. And not surprisingly, computers are pretty good at predicting things, sometimes much better than that. So our deal scores have proven to be 90% accurate across our customer base. One of the stats we often bring back to customers is that, well, the computer is pretty accurate at doing that. Often the human beings think they're accurate at doing that. We actually can go back and tell you how accurate you are. An interesting stat from our customer base is only 55% of the deals that are in commit actually ever close. And when you ask human beings what percentage they think are closed, they usually say 80, 90. That's there. So AI providing an actual probability to win score is a very concrete example of how you can use AI to help you close more deals. Second thing I've hinted about is we can provide AI-based opportunity insights. Again, if computers can look at every single piece of data in your CRM and other pieces of data, you can look at email data, you can look at meeting data, you can bring in all kinds of different data to look at that. And when you do that, when there's so much data out there, obviously a computer is a little better at then munging that all together and providing actual insights. So within what AI can not only produce the actual probability to win, but it can tell you why that score is that way. Hey, you don't win that often against this competitor, or this deal is moving more slowly through the sales cycle, or moving more quickly, through the sales cycle. So very concrete, big data opportunity insights can be gleaned from all the data that exists within your company. The third area that AI, is used within our customer base is actually then to take that information and put it on an opportunity map. So that this benefit is mostly for first-line sales management and above, where you say, how do I best apply my resources to the pipeline and the deals that I have in there? And AI can basically take the opportunity insights and the win scores, put them on a map, compare them to what human beings think, and then say, where should I focus? Which areas are green in the upper right quadrant, where both the computer and the human beings think they're on the glide path to close? Which deals the human beings think are in good shape, but the computer thinks are not in good shape? We can highlight those for those. Which deals are deals that the computer think are in good shape, but the sales team isn't paying enough attention to them? Each one of these quadrants can be figured out, and sales managers can get really action-oriented insights very quickly on the many, many deals that they have in their pipeline. And then the last thing I hinted at here is people are using AI to do forecasting today. I mean, heck, we're using AI to do weather forecasting. If you tune into CNN in hurricane season, you're going to see any number of computer models about how weather is forecasted. Well, if weather is actually a heck of a lot harder to forecast than sales, and so we should be applying big data, large machine learning techniques to do that. And companies like Aviso are able now to apply big data and machine learning to the forecast and actually provide an accurate day one forecast. Across our customer base, generally speaking, on the first day of the quarter, we can be 90% accurate on what your end number will be. So those are just 4 examples of how AI is being used to close more deals, what I think within the tech industry. And these aren't just ideas that we at Aviso have or that I have. They're actually being applied. This is a quick quote from one of our largest customers, Dell, where they actually are using AI to do deal reviews, and it's actually changed. Particularly the AI-driven win scores have really changed their ability to understand the reality of the deal and to get to the key elements that are influencing it and then take action. So that's, I'll close by telling you a little bit about Aviso that's there, and you can reach us at, I don't think it's listed here, but you can reach us at www.aviso.com, and you find a trove of information, including white papers about AI, and I really do believe that AI is the next frontier to make your sales organization more efficient, more effective, and ultimately AI can help you close more deals. Back to you, Bob.
Hey, thanks so much, Michael. That was some pretty scary stats you had there. 55% of committed opportunities don't close. Wow, that's kind of scary. I should take a look at our companies and see what's going on there. So now we're moving into the question and answer section of the presentation. So again, if you have any questions, just type them in, and we'll get to them. I'm going to circle back to David and ask you a question. How can you ensure that AI actually drives value? It's a real basic one, but big one.
Yeah, I mean, what a great question, Bob. Thank you. Look, this is a challenging one that affects all of our organizations. We're going to make an investment decision in something new, even an area like AI. It's tricky to think about how do you understand the ROI and the payback. Well, there's a couple of ways you can think about that. The first way is to try and understand in your industry how important it would be to help the salespeople to get back some of that lost time that has been taken away by non-selling activities. And if AI could simply solve the productivity angle, give you back time by automating the quality and consistency of data that gets put into, say, a CRM system or other Salesforce automation platform, is that going to in itself provide the ROI you need for a deployment? Or is the understandings you'll receive at the back end, being able to predict and take advantage of identified trends in how your teams are performing, is that going to give you enough ROI to make a return on investment? So we really believe that it's not about boiling the ocean. It's about breaking it down and understanding where is the value that AI technologies can provide. And importantly, if the AI technology is simply adding to an existing value proposition, that makes it even easier to justify inside an organization. It's about using and leveraging what you've already got, thinking about the common problems you have to solve anyway, and then applying the additional value that AI can deliver into a proposition that really works for the business.
Great. Actually, one of our listeners is asking a question, and maybe we can get back to her via email. I'm sure that someone on this call has some information just on hard cost justification when proposing this functionality in a business case. I don't expect you to kind of dig it up right now, but if we can circle back to this person after the event, that would be great. Yeah,
Bob, we find that as being something pretty important, because if you can look at the hard cost ROI, these numbers aren't that hard to make now, because the impact you can get on both those sides, the productivity side and the increase in win rate side, when you start thinking about that, you can get to an ROI proposition that justifies the ROI in months. And that's pretty important in our fast-changing economy.
Right. And everybody needs that to to secure budget as well. Okay, I'm going to circle back to Erwin from Conversica, and can you give us an idea, what should people be aware of when selecting an AI tool? You had a lot that you kind of mentioned throughout your presentation.
Yeah, we do a lot of testing here at Conversica, and we like to sort of see what other AI tools that are out there and give them a shakedown. The most important thing is when you look at an AI tool, is really know what it can't do for you. And that's really important. So like if you look at Bigtincan, it's going to give up sales enablement pieces, but it's not going to do the selling for you. And if you look at Aviso, it's going to let you know which deals are more likely to close, but it's not going to close them for you. And I think when you know what the tools can't do, it makes it helpful to understand then how you apply what they can do for your business. Piggybacking off of what David had said about understanding the value, it's knowing what you want to solve, what the problem is that you're going to apply AI to help solve, and then go with that. It's very important not to have a scope creep on what you think AI can do across all the board, because then that's when you start to run into problems.
Okay, I'm just going to ask another question from a viewer that kind of fits with what we're talking about. Basically, he's asking about, I guess everybody's got the same thing, how to justify it. This person is asking about what's a quick win, low investment piece of AI system which can be deployed in a sales org, which would help gain a foothold for future or further AI projects. Kind of goes along. What would you advise somebody who's trying to go in this direction and just needs that first quick win?
What I would advise is look at the problems you have in your sales organization and where is it that you need the most help, and that's where you're going to get the sort of the quickest win. So I talked to you about what I do in my own organization. So for my team is quickly scaling, and while I have midline leaders, I can't be on what I call a field ride with all my reps. And so the biggest problem I have is making sure my reps are being consistently on message, asking the right questions, understanding the buying signals, and then doing the right self-diagnosis to improve themselves, improve the performance of the team. So I looked at a tool that can record those calls, allow me to drop in on the calls as needed, allow me to see trends and phrases that they're saying, or warning signs around competitors, all that type of stuff. And that was the biggest problem I had, because I couldn't be in there, and that's where I saw the easiest win. Now, I'm an AI organization, so I should, in essence, use AI, right? But even at that point, that allowed me to then show the efficiency of one quick AI win gain, which is coaching, and then applying that to, let's say, forecasting, applying it to now sales enablement, applying it to messaging, applying it to all those other key components where we can automate those processes, get better results using the machine learning that's out there, and provide bigger or faster wins for the team. So that's what I would look at doing first, is for your quick win. Low entry point is where the biggest problem is at. And that's what we did.
Okay, great.
Bob, it's Michael here. Let me just reiterate on that. I wanted to, having heard two of those questions, I don't want people in the audience to think that any of us are advocating AI for AI's sake, that you should go get the AI platform and justify it and then come up with a solution to do that. I think probably what you've heard from all three of these people on the phone here is that, and Erwin said it, is like, think about the challenges that you have, and when you're trying to solve those challenges, expand the scope to using big data and AI to do that. I wouldn't recommend that you walk into the CFO's office and say, I'd like to spend some money on TensorFlow or Azure ML as the base platform and then try some things out. I think that you should say AI should be trying to solve very specific problems. If you have problems with sales teams not spending enough time in the field and too much time on prep, then you're going to say, hey, how can AI be used to enable my teams there? But I think it should be very specific to the problem, and the wrong way to go about it is try to buy a base AI platform that will solve a whole bunch of problems.
Right. Well, I get a sense from the questions coming in that people are very intrigued. They intuitively know this can help. but they're at the, they're one step before the beginning of the journey, and they're trying to figure out how to get things underway. Actually, glad you spoke up there. I have a question for you. What specific industries, companies, or business models benefit the most from AI applied to sales and opportunity management, Michael?
This is it's a good question. I think that I'll have a couple responses to this thing. So first of all, I would say when I usually categorize businesses, first of all, into B2C businesses and B2B businesses. So B2C businesses, which, oh, by the way, tend to be more marketing-oriented and less sales-oriented. Procter & Gamble spends more money on marketing than it does on sales. I would say that B2C businesses are first adopting AI in the marketing area because it's the key metric, the key lever in success for them. In B2B organizations who sometimes spend a little bit of money on marketing but spend most of their customer acquisition cost on sales, I believe that they should adopt AI first in sales rather than marketing. So the short answer would be B2B for sales first that's in there. And then the second, I would say industries that have high expenses in sales. So if you have very, very low expenses in sales and you buy all the e-commerce online, yeah, you're going to probably use AI the way that Amazon uses AI. But if you have large field sales teams, high acquisition costs, then you actually need to start to optimize, and you get tremendous ROI from applying big data and AI. So that's generically there. We've started off in our company selling to a lot of tech companies simply because they're a little bit more conversant with AI, but there's no reason that AI can't be used across anybody using B2B sales organizations, manufacturing, pharmaceutical, all that stuff can be done.
Great. I'm going to jump back to you too, David. This question comes up a lot when talking about AI. Is there a golden ratio, let's call it, of AI versus human interaction?
Well, look, Bob, that's, again, a $64,000 question, isn't it? Because if we know that AI can produce an ROI, it is something that makes sense to take advantage of. But as we spoke about before, and I think you've heard this from all the speakers today, it's not about replacing the work done by a human. It's about adjuncting it and providing additional value. And so the answer to the question of is there a golden ratio, well, the answer is, of course, it's the one that works for your business. And the beauty of the kind of tools that are available today is that you're able to understand, often at a very low entry cost, how you can get started with these AI technologies and how you can leverage the existing investments you could be making, whether it's a sales enablement platform or any other, and just get started with AI where it makes sense, where it can provide a return on investment in your world. And if you start small and start focusing on activities that really can move the needle, you start to get an improvement and more success from the business and more support to continue the AI journey.
Great. Heading over to Erwin at Conversica, where have you seen the most dramatic impact in your business using AI? It's another value question.
Yeah, so the value for us, we've seen the impact obviously has been in coaching and also engaging with our customers. So a lot of the tools I mentioned in my part of the presentation are tools that we actually use. We use our own service to engage all the leads that are coming through and identify hand raisers for us. We use Crystal Knows to help us craft messaging and understand who we're talking to before we actually engage them, so we talk in their own language. And then we use tools like Gong.io or Chorus.ai to do the recording of our calls and do the coaching, as I said, for the field ride. And I've seen a dramatic lift in my team's performance. This is something we measure year over year, and we've seen a dramatic impact in the number of deal sizes we've done, the number of sales that we've been able to move. I know for our customers, they've seen a huge impact in reallocating their human capital to better creative tasks and to better deal sizes. One of the common questions we get, depending on the type of AI you're using, are you replacing somebody? I know for our current customer base, they actually end up growing their teams because we end up generating more sales and opportunity for them. And that, at the end of the day, there has to be an ROI component to any AI solution that you're using, whether it's an efficiency gain, productivity gain or even just an overall revenue gain, that's where you have to have that value shown, and that's where we've seen it for ourselves.
Okay. Actually, a question just came in, and I think this would probably be a great time to ask it. Basically, this person says AI typically relies on training with a large data sample. He says, how do you handle it? Or I guess what he means is where do you get that data? How do you start off with a large data sample? Or would you agree with that?
Well, I can speak for us, and then obviously David and Michael can speak for how they get their data set. For us, we do lots of natural language processing, and there's ways that you can look at natural language processing. You can look at intent, content, context, sentiment analysis, and what we're looking for our solution is an answer to a yes or no question. So once you understand how you derive that algorithmic model, then it becomes easy to sort of find the data set over time for us. So we keep having conversations with people, regardless of the industry. We sort of learn what a yes or no answer is. Other solutions, one I think was called DeepMind, maybe Deep Thought, something of that nature. It was actually bought by Salesforce. They used data sets of large sets of notes from customers who took a series of notes to add that information, and that's what they built the Einstein platform off of. They also used some GPUs to help process that data as well too. It really depends on how you define your algorithm, how you define what that algorithm is going to do. That then determines the type of data set that you need to have. I think what you're going to see with tools like Bigtincan and Aviso, and those guys obviously can speak for the tools better than I can, is that they've already had that data set that they know when they go into their customers, they're going to deliver some really strong results. But I'll let David and Michael speak for themselves.
Okay.
Well, thanks for that. I was going to say something very similar, is that you've got to start with the data you've got. That's the way to start. Otherwise, you'll never start. Look at the data you've got, and you're probably building up in your organization every day as you engage with customers, and you have sales folks out there engaging with customers, sharing content, and doing their everyday job. And so, again, one of the tricks to starting with an AI project is optimizing the performance of things that already happen. And if you're able to think about the activities and actions that occur now, and then apply the big data algorithms, and there's tons of stuff we could go into on that, but just the principle of thinking in that kind of way, and then seeing if you can get started optimizing performance, build a successful AI project to start. It's one of the most important things in any enterprise we've seen from this kind of experience is deploy something successful, prove it out, get an ROI, and then move on to how AI technology can be even more part of what you do.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, it's Michael here. Let me just jump in and say that I'll just echo those thoughts quickly. So obviously, for AI to work and big data to work, it's got to be somewhat big that's there. The good news is almost all the customers out there have actually been keeping large amounts of data because storage is cheap. So for us, we kind of plug into CRM systems or other systems, and the data tends to be there. Now, that having been said, if you're selling 20 deals a year and you've got 2 sales reps, then I wouldn't put AI high on your list. But you'll be surprised at how little data it takes to be statistically significant that's there. So small and medium-sized businesses can think about AI, not just big ones.
Great. You know what? I just realized we're up at the 3 o'clock hour right now. So unless anybody has anything to add right now, I think we're just going to have to thank everyone for coming, first of all. And I apologize if we didn't get to your question. We'll follow up within a few days by email. And I'd also like to thank our speakers for today. We've got David Keane again. He's the CEO and co-founder of Bigtincan. Erwin Martin, Vice President of Sales from Conversica, and Michael Locke, CEO of Aviso. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, I'd certainly encourage you to do this. You can download it once the event is archived. You can also review the event or send it to a colleague just by using the web address that you used for today's event. It'll be archived for 90 days. Plus, as a courtesy, you'll receive an email once the event is posted. And just for participating in this today's event, you could win this Echo Dot, and the winner will be announced on August 31st, which is, tomorrow? And we will reach out via email if you're selected as this month's winner. So that concludes our broadcast for today, and thanks everyone for joining us.